like everybody's in their Zen place, but I hope that you will consider staying because this is going to be a wonderful 20 minutes. Well, I had to let you guys in on a little secret. I just went to the restroom right before I came out here, and I took off my Spanx. Yes, I did. Because I feel like, now Spanx are not a bad thing, but I'm a woman who's had 3 babies. So, if I've got a little round pooch, it's just a part of the process. And my youngest is only 11 months old. So, yes, thank you. So I am the author of a book called One Hot Mama, The Guide to Getting Your Mind and Body Back After Baby. But I have to tell you, being a hot mama is not about how you look. Being a hot mama is living your passion. It's about living your purpose. It's about living with joy so that you can set that example for your child, so that you can love yourself enough to teach your child how to love him or herself. And I actually feel like more of a hot mama at this very moment than I've ever felt in my entire life. But let me tell you why. Is it because I've recently lost weight? Well, I had to lose the 45 pounds of weight that I gained to have my 3rd child. But no, that's not it. Is it the new dress that I'm wearing? I mean, maybe a little, but no, that's not it. I feel like a hot mama right now because I know that this is what I was born to do. I was born to love. My dharma is to love and to serve. And for many years, I didn't do that. So the first thing that I want you guys to do, I feel like I'm the last in a long stretch of speakers, so what I'd like you all to do is to stand up. This is the last time. I know everybody's like, not again, but I want you to do this because this is a really powerful exercise. Are there any hot mamas out in the crowd? Woo! Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Okay, so what I want you to do, whether you're a mother or you're a father or you're an aunt, you know that maternal love. You know that unconditional love. You know that divine love. Now, I want you to envision the first time that little baby was placed into your arms and how your heart felt. I will never forget when my first daughter was born. I looked around the room and everybody was sobbing. I was sobbing, my husband was sobbing, the doctor was sobbing, the nurses were sobbing. And I looked down at this little baby and I thought, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. But I have to say, so envision that divine, I'm going to go on with that story in a second, but since I've got you all standing up, think of that divine love, that unconditional love. And I want you to feel that love radiating from your heart, that love that you felt for that child. I want you to radiate that out, that love. Now I want you to radiate that love from your 3rd eye. I want you to radiate that love from your fingertips. Put your hands out. Think of that love, that powerful love. I want you guys to radiate that positive love energy. Now I want you to turn that and give it to everybody around you. We are raising the vibrational energy in this room. Think if everybody left here and gave this kind of love to everybody out there. We could change the world with this powerful love. Oh my gosh, you guys, I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm feeling so much love in this room. So that is a powerful kind of love. So those of you who are mothers know that giving this kind of love and having this kind of love can take a lot from you. In fact, it can make you so you lose sight of who you really are. So you guys can all sit down now. But I want you to remember this exercise because a challenge I have for you is sometime in the next week, I want you to get in that place where you are radiating love. And I want you to go down a city street, and I want you to radiate that love to everybody you come into contact with. And I'm not kidding, they will feel it. They will feel it. People will feel it. I do this sometimes, and people get this freaked out, whoo, and in my head I think I love you. So I want to talk to you about the top 3 things about being a hot mama. It's about meditating, moving your body, and living your passion. Now, have I always been a meditator? No. I grew up in South Dakota. I'm a Midwestern Lutheran Norwegian, and that's a group of people that does not meditate. In fact, if you said you meditate, you're kind of seen as a far-out hippie. So no, I did not grow up meditating. I grew up in a wonderful, loving home. But like I was saying, the first time I was given my daughter, I was overcome with this love. And I know I felt a similar love when I held my nephew for the first time, but it is this unconditional. I would have laid down my life right there for that child. And to be quite honest, when my daughter was born, she had been stuck in my birth canal for a really long time, and her head was a total cone. She actually looked a little bit like an alien, but my husband and I were like, oh, she's so beautiful. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but a newborn baby that's been stuck in a birth canal for a while can look a little freakish. But I loved her so much. And I remember going home from the hospital, and before that time, I had been an environmental engineer, and I'd been moving up the career ladder. And I identified myself as a powerful woman who was successful. I'd been helping my company make money, and I was good at what I did. And I didn't realize that my ego was wrapped around that position as an environmental engineer. But here I come home with this baby, and I think to myself, I don't want to leave her with anybody else. I want to be here with her. But there's this other side of me that's like, well, gosh, I went to graduate school. I worked so hard. I've got to go back to work. I've got to do this for myself. So I did end up going back to work. And the whole time, I felt like there's something bigger I need to be doing, but I didn't know what it was. So I'm married to an Air Force fighter pilot, and so we don't always get control over where we live. So my husband and I moved from the Mojave Desert, the middle of nowhere, which is where I had my first child, and the lonely experiences there are actually a lot of the fodder for my book, One Hot Mama, and how I dealt with raising a baby without my family around. But my husband and I then moved to Florida, and in Florida, we found out we were pregnant again. We had to work really hard to get pregnant with the first one. So this one, we got pregnant right away. We were so excited. So I went in to have that first ultrasound at about 9 weeks, and my husband was deployed at the time, so I went and did it by myself. You know, the ultrasound technician's looking around, the doctor's there, and we hear the heartbeat. Oh, thank goodness. As any mother knows, when you hear that heartbeat, when you feel that first kick, everything is good. You think everything's going to be great. At the end of the appointment, my doctor said, well, you know something, the heartbeat was just a little slower than I like to see, so I'm going to ask you to come back in 2 weeks. But everything's fine. Don't worry. I'm sure everything is just fine. So I go away, and kind of, you know, my heart's beating a little bit. I'm a little nervous, wondering, oh, what could be wrong? But I kept telling myself, everything's going to be just fine. So my husband comes back from his deployment. We go back to the doctor, and this time it's a technician doing the ultrasound. And so she does the ultrasound equipment. She's looking around, and all of a sudden her eyebrows furrow. She looks at me, and she says, excuse me a minute. She walks out of the room. I looked at my husband, and I said, oh my gosh, something's wrong, something's really wrong. And I start to panic a little bit. So my physician comes in, she grabs the ultrasound equipment, she looks around, her eyebrows furrow, she really starts looking around, and she stops and she goes, you guys, I'm so sorry, but there's no heartbeat. But not only that, you have what's called a partial molar pregnancy, and there's a large tumor in your uterus, and the baby just could have never survived. Whew. So I took a deep breath. The doctor left the room. I cried really hard for a few seconds, but then I said, okay, I'm a South Dakota Norwegian Lutheran. We're tough people. I'm going to be just fine. This is going to be okay. And I remember getting in the car, and my husband patted me on the back, and he said, it's going to be okay. We can have another baby. I said, okay. So then I had to go and have a procedure called a DNC, where they remove everything. And I remember going home just feeling completely numb. I didn't cry, but I felt empty. And I remember just holding my stomach feeling empty because I'd connected with that little life. And I remember that night, I couldn't sleep. My husband fell right asleep as usual. He's snoring away, but I'm laying there wide awake. And I had this urge to get up, and I got the ultrasound picture from when the baby was alive, and I started looking at it, and I started sobbing. And it was a kind of sadness that I'd never experienced. It was so deep and so sorrowful. And then I got mad, and I remember putting my fists together and saying, why, God? Why me? What have I done to deserve this? Are you angry at me? I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm a good person. I'm sure Ken had feelings like this. Like, what did I do to deserve this? I don't understand. This isn't in my plan. Things have always gone according to my plan. And in this rage of sobbing and anger and just this awful feelings, I felt this warmth come over me. And it was so loving, and it was so wonderful, and all of a sudden, I heard. And if you guys have had this experience, it's not like you're hearing a voice, it's a knowing. God transferred me this knowledge, and he said, I didn't cause this to happen. I love you. I love you unconditionally. You need to love yourself, and you need to use this experience. This is what I knew. I needed to use this experience to push me to what I was supposed to be doing, to my highest good. So did I go quit my job? No. Not for many years after that, but what I did do is to deal with this hurt and to recover, I started meditating. I started waking up every morning and meditating and praying. And I started reading self-help books. And I started reading Dr. Wayne Dyer books. Who in this room likes Dr. Wayne Dyer? I love him. And then he started showing up everywhere. I listened to an Oprah podcast, there's Wayne Dyer. I go to the bookstore, there's more Wayne Dyer. I opened up my yoga journal, and he was going to be speaking at a conference in Tampa, Florida, a Hay House, I Can Do It conference. Wow, well, I had to go hear him. I just had to. Well, my husband was going to be deployed again, and so I thought, what am I going to do? Well, my mother-in-law was so gracious. She said, I'll come and watch. At that time, I had one child, and I was actually pregnant again. And she said, I'll come and watch Ella. You can go. And we all went together, and they stayed at the hotel. I went and heard Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'd never heard anything like that before. And I was lit up. Like maybe you guys have had this feeling. I hung on every word. I couldn't stop listening. I was so just ignited by him, literally. Then I went back to my mother-in-law, and I said, I've got to go back tomorrow. And she's like, fine, we're having a great time. Go back tomorrow. So I went back the next day, and again, I heard Louise Hay. I heard Dr. Bruce Lipton. I heard all these people that were just so inspiring. And I thought to myself, these are my people. These are my people. Everybody in the audience was so loving. I felt so good there. And as I was walking out the door, I saw a pamphlet for a writer's workshop. And I have to tell you guys, when I look at myself as a child, I loved to write. I loved to illustrate. I used to sit in my bedroom and record radio programs by myself. I was kind of a weird kid. But of course, I went to school to be a biologist, chemist, and a water resources engineer. I had to do something that would make my family proud of me. But when I saw that writer's workshop, something in me went, yes, that's it. So I took that home, and I showed my husband. I said, I really need to go to this. And my husband, my wonderful husband, said, that's really expensive. We really can't afford that right now. We're about to have another baby, or we just had another baby. I'm sorry, we just can't do it, Erin. And I said, okay, you're right. But I put it up on what I now know is a vision board. It was a bulletin board in my laundry room. So every time I was folding laundry, I'd look at that, and I'm like, I want to go to that. I want to go to that. Well, let me tell you what happened. The registration for this cruise, it was a Caribbean cruise, by the way. I mean, who doesn't want to go on a Hay House Writers Workshop on a Caribbean cruise? The registration closed in December. The week it closed, I got an envelope in the mail. I opened it up. It was for almost the exact amount of the cruise. It was from the hospital where I just had my second baby, and somehow we'd overpaid by a couple $1,000s. I'm not kidding. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my sign. This is it. This is it. I went on the computer. I went and registered right away for that cruise. I didn't even call my husband. I'm sorry, when something comes that's divine, that is that divine, you just have to go with it. And of course, my amazing mother, I just told her I was going. She's like, I'll be there with you. So we went. And it was hard to leave my daughter because she was 7 months old. And I actually stopped nursing way earlier just so I could go. But on that writer's workshop, I knew this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to love. I'm supposed to inspire, and I'm supposed to write. So at the end of the writer's workshop, we all had the opportunity to submit a book proposal. And so again, I'm like, I knew this is what I'm supposed to do. During that time, when I was writing the book proposal, we were also in the process of moving across the country from Florida to Oregon, with 2 very young children, living in a temporary apartment. I mean, I wrote this in some strange circumstances, but July 2011, the week of my birthday, we got the keys to our new house. I got a call from Reed Tracy telling me that I was going to be a Hay House author. And my husband and I went out to celebrate. Yeah. So my husband and I went out to celebrate. I normally drink maybe 1 glass of wine, but this was like a big celebration. I mean, Hay House, oh my gosh. New house, oh my gosh. Birthday, woohoo! And so guess what happened? We drank way too much wine, and 9 months later, we had my beautiful little boy, Kellen. And so I call him our Hay House love baby. I don't know. I don't know how he's going to feel about that, but... So the point of me telling you all of this is that I knew that I was meant for something special. I knew I was meant to write. I knew I was doing something. I was supposed to do something different, but I did not know what it was. It was like this ambiguous thing out here. And if I hadn't meditated, I would have never gotten the clarity that I did. And if I hadn't had that hardship, that hard experience, that pain, I don't think I would have ever pushed myself to figure out what I was really meant to do. So if any of you here today have that longing, you have this ambiguous thing in your heart, you know you're meant to do something different, and it's not clear, that's okay. It will become clear. It's like you're tuning in. So the other things as a mother, I think it's so important to take care of yourself. Anita talked about this. In my culture, the women are taught to be martyrs, to give and give and give. Does that sound familiar? And it's in our nature a little bit too, to give until we are depleted. What does that teach our children? If we can teach them instead that I love myself enough to eat well, to move my body, to take the time to do yoga, I'm teaching my children that. Now, I will never forget, after I had had my second baby, I was looking in the mirror like this. No Spanx on, of course. And I remember my belly was kind of bleh. My body was just so different. I remember looking at the mirror with complete disgust. My 3-year-old, who I didn't know was standing there, was watching me. She came up to me and she touched me and she said, "Mommy, you're beautiful." And she said, "Mommy, you're skinny." Oh, I vowed at that day that I will never talk about my body negatively in front of my daughters. I have 2 daughters. I want them to grow up and feel good about their bodies, even if they've gotten big and gained 45 pounds like I did to have babies. It's okay. The point is that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to live through example, because our children do what we do. They watch us. So show your children how much you love yourself so they can learn to love themselves. The final thing is to live your passion. My marriage has never been hotter than it has been in the past few months because I'm happy. I just quit my job as an environmental engineer 3 weeks ago. Woo! And I am so happy. I am creating success on my own terms. I am with my children 3 days a week, fully present with them, and I am working fully engaged in my work 2 days a week. It feels so good. You can create success on your own terms. Do you want to know what men find attractive? They find women who are confident, who are fully themselves, who are happy, who are joyful, who have a sense of humor. When I'm exhausted, when I haven't taken the time for myself, when I've been giving to my kids and giving to my kids and giving to my kids, I'm not fun. I can be kind of bitchy. I can be kind of cranky. And so when my husband comes to me at the end of the night, starts rubbing my shoulders, I'm like, ooh. But when you're happy, you've taken time for yourself, you will be a better mother, a better friend, a better aunt, a better grandmother, a better whatever. So you have to put yourself first so that your cup runneth over for those that you love. Fill your own cup first. Put your own air mask on first so that you can be yourself, so that you can give your best to everyone else. My incredible husband is right there, and I have to say, he has been such an amazing support for me. He's been watching our 3 kids like crazy. Stand up. He's my one hot husband. Seriously. Anyway, I'm out of time, but I hope that mothers can start a movement of loving themselves and supporting other mothers in this too, because we can't do it alone. We don't always live next door to our moms. I wish I did. But being married to an Air Force pilot, we live where the Air Force tells us. So we have to... Yes, thank you. So, mamas, oh my gosh, you guys, what am I going to do? I can't choose. Oh, hey, we've got tons of books. I only brought 2, but there's tons of them out there. And I would love to connect with you guys. I would love to support this movement of mamas loving themselves so they can love, because happy mamas raise happy children. So come join me out there. I've got my books for sale. I would love to meet you. I'd love to connect with you. ErinCox.com. Thank you. Thank you.